Why more abnegation than jealousy, less envy than equanimity? From outrage, matrimony, to outrage, adultery, there arose naught but outrage, copulation. Yet the matrimonial violator of the matrimonially violated had not been outraged by the adulterous violator of the adulterously violated. What retribution, if any? Assassination, never, as two wrongs did not make one right. Duel by combat, no. Divorce, not now. Exposure by mechanical artifice, automatic bed, or individual testimony, concealed ocular witnesses, not yet. Suit for damages by legal influence or simulation of assault with evidence of injuries sustained, self-inflicted, not impossibly. Hush money by moral influence, possibly. If any, positively, connivance. Introduction of emulation, material, a prosperous rival agency of publicity, moral, a successful rival agent of intimacy, depreciation, alienation, humiliation, separation, protecting the one separated from the other, protecting the separator from both. By what reflections did he, a conscious reactor against the void of incertitude, justify to himself his sentiments? The preordained frangibility of the hymen, the presupposed intangibility of the thing in itself, the incongruity and disproportion between the self-prolonging tension of the thing proposed to be done and the self-abbreviating relaxation of the thing done, the fallaciously inferred debility of the female, the muscularity of the male, the variations of ethical codes, the natural grammatical transition by inversion involving no alteration of sense of aorist preterite proposition, past as masculine subject, monosyllabic onomatopoeic transitive verb with direct feminine object, from the active voice into its correlative aorist preterite proposition, past as feminine subject, auxiliary verb and quasi-monosyllabic onomatopoeic past participle with complementary masculine agent, in the passive voice, the continued product of seminators by generation, the continual production of semen by distillation, the futility of triumph or protest or vindication, the inanity of extolled virtue, the lethargy of nescient matter, the apathy of the stars. In what final satisfaction did these antagonistic sentiments and reflections, reduced to their simplest forms, converge? Satisfaction at the ubiquity in eastern and western terrestrial hemispheres, in all habitable lands and islands explored or unexplored, the land of the midnight sun, the islands of the blessed, the isles of Greece, the land of promise, of adipose anterior and posterior female hemispheres, redolent of milk and honey and of excretory sanguine and seminal warmth, reminiscent of secular families of curves of amplitude, insusceptible of moods of impression or of contrarieties of expression, expressive of mute immutable mature animality. The visible signs of antisatisfaction? An approximate erection, a solicitous adversion, a gradual elevation, a tentative revelation, a silent contemplation. Then he kissed the plump mellow yellow smellow melons of her rump, on each plump melonous hemisphere, in their mellow yellow furrow, with obscure prolonged provocative melonous osculation. The visible signs of post-satisfaction? A silent contemplation, a tentative velation, a gradual abasement, a solicitous aversion, a proximate erection. What followed this silent action? Somnolent invocation, less somnolent recognition, incipient excitation, catechetical interrogation. With what modifications did the narrator reply to this interrogation? Negative, he omitted to mention the clandestine correspondence between Martha Clifford and Henry Flower, the public altercation at, in and in the vicinity of the licensed premises of Bernard Guianan and Co., Limited, 8, 9 and 10 Little Britain Street, the erotic provocation and response thereto caused by the exhibitionism of Gertrude, Gertie, surname unknown. Positive, he included mention of a performance by Mrs. Bandman Palmer of Leo at the Gaiety Theatre, 46, 47, 48, 49 South King Street, An Invitation to Supper at Wynn's, Murphy's, Hotel, 35, 36 and 37 Lower Abbey Street, a volume of Peccamino's pornographical tendency entitled Sweets of Sin, anonymous author or gentleman of fashion, a temporary concussion caused by a falsely calculated movement in the course of a post-penal gymnastic display, the victim, since completely recovered, being Stephen Dedalus, professor and author, eldest surviving son of Simon Dedalus, of no fixed occupation, an aeronautical feat executed by him, narrator, in the presence of a witness, the professor and author aforesaid, with promptitude of decision and gymnastic flexibility. Was the narration otherwise unaltered by modifications? Absolutely. Which event or person emerged as the salient point of his narration? Stephen Dedalus, professor and author. What limitations of activity and inhibitions of conjugal rights were perceived by listener and narrator concerning themselves during the course of this intermittent and increasingly more laconic narration? By the listener a limitation of fertility inasmuch as marriage had been celebrated one calendar month after the 18th anniversary of her birth, the 8th of September 1870, viz. the 8th of October, and consummated on the same date with female issue born the 15th of June 1889, having been anticipatorily consummated on the 10th of September of the same year, and complete carnal intercourse, with ejaculation of semen within the natural female organ, having last taken place 5 weeks previous, viz., the 27th of November 1893, to the birth on the 29th of December 1893 of second, and only male, issue, deceased the 9th of January 1894, aged 11 days, there remained a period of 10 years, 5 months and 18 days during which carnal intercourse had been incomplete, without ejaculation of semen within the natural female organ. By the narrator a limitation of activity, mental and corporal, inasmuch as complete mental intercourse between himself and the listener had not taken place since the consummation of puberty, indicated by catamenic hemorrhage, of the female issue of narrator and listener, the 15th of September 1903, there remained a period of 9 months and 1 day during which, in consequence of a pre-established natural comprehension in incomprehension between the consummated females, listener and issue, complete corporal liberty of action had been circumscribed. How? By various reiterated feminine interrogation concerning the masculine destination with the place where, the time at which, the duration for which, the object with which in the case of temporary absences, projected or effected. What moved visibly above the listener's and the narrator's invisible thoughts? The upcast reflection of a lamp and shade, an inconstant series of concentric circles of varying gradations of light and shadow. In what directions did listener and narrator lie? Listener, S, E, by E, narrator, N, W, by W, on the 53rd parallel of latitude, N, and 6th meridian of longitude, W, at an angle of 45 degrees to the terrestrial equator. In what state of rest or motion? At rest relatively to themselves and to each other. In motion being each and both carried westward, forward and rearward respectively, by the proper perpetual motion of the earth through ever-changing tracts of never-changing space. In what posture? Listener, reclined semilaterally, left hand under head, right leg extended in a straight line and resting on left leg, flexed, in the attitude of hiatus, fulfilled, recumbent, big with seed. Narrator, reclined laterally, left, with right and left legs flexed, the index finger and thumb of the right hand resting on the bridge of the nose, in the attitude depicted in a snapshot photograph made by Percy Apjohn, the childman weary, the man-child in the womb. Womb. Weary? He rests. He has travelled. with Sinbad the sailor and Tinbad the tailor and Ginbad the jailer and Winbad the whaler and Ninbad the nailer and Finbad the failer and Binbad the baler and Pinbad the paler and Minbad the mailer and Hinbad the hailer and Rinbad the railer and Dinbad the caler and Vinbad the quailer and Linbad the yaler and Zinbad the thaler. When going to dark bed there was a square round Sinbad the sailor ox egg in the night of the bed of all the orcs of the rocks of dark Inbad the bright daler. Trieste Zurich Paris 1914 to 1921.